Welcome back to the motherfucking podcast, guys.
Hi.
I'm Lacey.
Stephanie.
And this is Here we go.
Okay, guys. We have another long interview today because it's one we are very passionate about. And
today we're those girls.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we are. We're those girls. We're the people that, it only takes us 5 minutes to say that we're vegan, or what is it? I don't know. We're the stereotype, basically. And we bring on Krissy, who I met in the scene in Denver, who runs a plant-based, gluten-free meal plan service here. And I'm hooked on their food. I'm hooked on everything she does. And she's educated me on food and how important it is just be eating whole foods, and what all that can do and has done for her and what it can do for others. And it's mental health. And this is just, this is a interview about plant-based diets and environmentalism and gluten. We dive in about that too, because that has fucked me up. So yeah.
I mean, I know it's kind of like an eye roll sometimes when you hear vegan, but this is honestly very informative for your overall health and also just an impact on the earth. And I know it can be annoying. I don't want to hear about this, but I don't know. I just would encourage pretty much anyone. I know a big part of our following and listeners are from Arkansas, and that's not exactly where a plant-based lifestyle is popular or common. And so I love that we were able to dive in and really share why we are plant-based and what it actually does for your mental health, preventing diseases, preventing inflammation, preventing weight gain, but also really impacting the earth and climate change. And there's just so many benefits to a plant-based diet, and I'm excited to share this with y'all.
Yeah, I've been vegan for almost 12 years, and at first I was a little aggressive, just because when you find out that you just everything that you've been eating is just a lie, and that you don't need these things, you just kind of get angry, and you want to educate people because you're just mad, and you're listen, but no one really does. So it's just, I don't know, this interview isn't coming at talking about veganism at an angle that, you shouldn't eat meat. We're very clear that, and I've said this before, I don't think that everybody should be vegan. I just think that everybody should be more mindful of what they're eating. And Krissy even said that too. She was I'm very aware of
whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever works for you, but just be more mindful because it's fucking everything up, the amount of meat that we're eating. And it's just informative. It's not aggressive.
And this is the big hook, y'all. We all want to look our best.
Yeah, at the very least. If you're not gonna do it for the environment and the animals, do it for you.
Do it for your physical self, babe. Yeah. I get so many questions all the time of what's my diet now? And today we actually just launched our talking to an eating disorder recovery coach, and having an eating disorder is something that I struggled with, and that really meant that I had a pretty bad relationship with food. I didn't know much about food, and I was very fearful of food and gaining weight. And veganism or a plant-based diet really did help heal a lot, just because there wasn't any fear of it anymore. I was this is
guilt, maybe.
Yeah, guilt. There was just a lot of things, and you can listen to that episode if you want to hear more in depth about that. But when I cook now, I'm very mindful of consumption and portions and stuff like that. But I just it's so, food does not control me anymore because I know what I'm eating is good for me. And I always feel so full, and I feel good. I feel energized. I never feel sluggish or shitty the next morning. I cook for all of my friends. They love coming over and eating the bowl. It's such a thing. And all of us are just jazzed on it. And we're what the fuck is it about this bowl? But anyways, I know I get a lot of messages about, what my diet and workout routine is. And I don't know if I really want to share all of that right now, but a huge part of it is just living a mindful plant-based diet, because there are really no restrictions in my eyes. And it's just, you know, my body's like aligned with it. You know, there's like, we're like flowing together. We're not fighting. Yeah.
You feel good. Like like it's such a quick thing too. Like, within a week, you feel clearer. And
food is medicine too.
Yeah. Like you are what you eat. And yeah, we think this will be a very informative episode for you guys. And we hope you are open-minded to hearing something that might make you uncomfortable if, you know, you are someone that eats meat 3 times a day, you know, and you might not be feeling well. You might be wondering why you don't, you know, look this way, or you might be wondering why your head's a little foggy and stuff. Just, you know, maybe this could be something that educates you a little bit and something that you could try for yourself. And maybe if it doesn't work, you don't have to stick with it.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. Yeah. Like we touched on like how I've heard people say like ignorance is bliss. And you know, like it is a lot, like, you know, like I get myself in trouble when I Insta creep too much.
Oh my God.
But like when it comes to like stuff like this, I hear, you know, comments of like, no, I can't watch that. That'll just like fuck with me. Like, no, I love like fish too much. No, like I love eating meat.
Cheese too much.
Yeah, like I can't watch that.
Addicted.
And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm just like, dude, like knowledge is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, and it brings so much like awareness and mindfulness. And it's just like, do this for yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
and yeah. You'll hear more of what we're talking about in the episode.
We're being preachy vegans.
Yeah.
We're gonna stop.
We're gonna stop, but we hope that you guys enjoy this one. And without further ado, we're gonna get right into it.
Oh,
here we go. Good.
Welcome back, guys.
Hi.
Today we're bringing on Krissy.
Yeah.
What's your last name?
Ostermiller.
Ostermiller.
Yeah. I met Krissy through the Denver scene, and really, oddly enough, the music industry, which is not what we're talking about today at all. But Krissy owns a vegan, gluten-free meal. You introduce yourself. Tell us about you. You do this.
Hi, I'm Krissy. I'm the founder and owner of Yayé Organics. We have dedicated our lives to helping people transform theirs through the power of food as medicine. So we deliver the world's cleanest organic meal plans delivered to doors throughout Colorado. And as Steph mentioned, everything is also gluten-free, no refined sugars, no seed-based oils. So literally the healthiest food on the planet.
It's so good.
It sounds so boring when I say it out loud, but our food really is anything but boring. It's like really sophisticated, so many different layers and ingredients and different colors of fruits and vegetables and nuts, seeds, and herbs that'll help heal you from the inside out.
Yeah, I have been eating their food. I don't know how long it's been now. When did we start working together? A year ago?
Yeah, almost a year ago. It was right around your birthday.
Yeah. Okay. March. Early March. Yeah. So I have been sticking to because at first, you know, we partnered up and I was shooting their food and we were talking about like doing a trade and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, I'm not like a meal plan kind of person. But then at the shoot, I like ate some and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'll do this. This is delivered to me. Okay, yeah,
and it's ready to eat. Like you don't have to cook it.
Yeah, like it's all in my fridge right now. I get it every Monday. I don't really ever have to grocery shop unless I want to cook something specific for myself. But that's never really ever. So,
are there plans to expand?
Yeah,
I'm in California.
Yeah, are there? Yeah.
Right now, we're gonna keep our operations in Colorado. I can totally ship to you. It's just really expensive to ship. Like
yeah, because it's like fresh food.
I had it shipped to Arkansas, and it's not that bad. It's like $50.
Yeah, when I used to ship to like Kunja's parents in New York every week.
Oh wow,
it was $110 a delivery
in
shipping.
I would pay that for this because I'm so afraid of going out and eating these foods now because I have a gluten intolerance, which is why I've been like signing up for even more at Yayé because I'm like, hey, like I really actually need this food now. Like I can't have gluten, or I can, but I just like don't want it in my body. And
it's super inflammatory.
Yeah, and when I go to Arkansas, I can't really eat anything, so I pay. I'm like, I would pay anything to get this food here. Like
I'll pay anything to look good.
Yeah, like seriously. Well, how long have you been vegan? You're vegan.
I am vegan. I've only been vegan for about 5 years, but I stopped eating meat when I was a freshman in high school. So it's been a long journey of giving up animal products.
What was the driving force behind that decision when you were like 15 years old?
It's a little embarrassing, but I read the book Skinny Bitch. Do you guys remember?
No, I didn't.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's definitely kind of like the shock and awe piece of literature, if you can call it that made me originally stop eating animals. But obviously I've continued to do boatloads of my own research and kind of testing since. So it was one book that kind of shocked me when I was a freshman in high school that made me originally go veg.
Okay.
That I've been vegan for almost 12 years now, I think. And it was a boyfriend at the time. Wow, 12 years ago. That's okay. It was a boyfriend at the time. He wanted to go vegan, and I was like, "No, that's so stupid." I was like you can't eat anything, blah, blah blah. And he was like, "You can eat like beans and stuff like that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then I tried it after shit talking so much. I was like, "Okay." And so we tried it, and like immediately, within like 3 weeks, I started noticing inches kind of coming off my body, not necessarily like losing weight at first, but just like getting smaller. And then like probably about a year into it, I started noticing my skin becoming a little different. Like I was never breaking out. And then it kept progressing into now it's like I notice it within my hair and my just like everything now. And I can't even imagine at this point tasting meat. I just cannot. I have no desire. It's actually like a nightmare that I have at this point. And I was raised on like Southern food. And it's just like, it's crazy how much better you feel when you don't. I mean, I don't know about everybody. Maybe some people don't feel better after cutting it out. But I know personally, it was immediate. Like I never crave. A chicken was a hard craving for me because it was so like beaten to me as a child. But immediately I never craved red meat. Nothing.
You know, it's interesting after being vegan for, maybe X amount of years and you maybe ingest like dairy or meat, your body is like sick. It like rejects it. Like I'm on the toilet the next day. And that little fact right there, I'm like, my body doesn't want this.
It's your body's telling
It's like, stop. Like, and so it's just when you're raised like that, your body's just used to it. And, I believe it probably weakens your immune system. And like, there's like so many things, but maybe you could tell us about that if you know anything.
Totally, yeah. I mean, the vast majority of our immune system lives in our gut. And I think it's also important not just talking about veganism and how it can make you look better, but more importantly, how it can make you feel better. Because 60% of dopamine and 95% of serotonin are created in our guts. Oh. And our guts have a direct link to our brain called the vagus nerve. And so, like when you talk about the mind-body connection, or when you get butterflies in your stomach, when you hear a weird piece of news or you have a bad feeling about something, like that's not witchcraft. That's literally your mind and your body being connected and speaking to each other and kind of warning each other.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
So like when I have like butterflies for a boy, why is my brain sending that to my gut? You know what I mean? What's going on down there?
I don't have all the answers, but I'm sure it has something to do with like your endocrine system and all of your hormones.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, because you get it here.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you get it here? Well, maybe a little.
Sometimes you feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
I want to know everything.
The moral of the story is like we're all connected. Like our bodies are connected. At like our base, we're just energy.
Yeah.
Like we're a bunch of little atoms like vibrating. And when someone walks into the room and you say, "Oh, they have good energy or bad energy," that's a real thing.
Yeah, It's so real. Well, where are you from originally?
I'm from Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
Really, it's a conversation stopper. And I was raised by my grandparents in like a very meat and potatoes type of household.
That's what I was going to
I'd help my
ask.
grandma make punchkis and pierogies and like my grandfather would eat bologna sandwiches every day for lunch.
Bologna.
Wow. Okay.
Bologna sales have to be down.
Whoa.
God, I hope
Right? Look, the one time I had bologna, I ate the red thing around it because no one told me not to. And I told my mom, and my grandpa let me do it. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't like that red thing around there. Like why do people eat that? And she was like, you're not supposed to. And so
I forgot
that's
about
my
that.
one and only moment I've ever had with bologna. So
Got some beef with bologna.
Well, so what was your transition like into veganism?
So, like I said, became a vegetarian when I was 14 or 15. And I think at that point, I was still consuming a good amount of dairy. But I remember in college, that's when I like started transitioning to veganism. And I stopped drinking milk and obviously started purchasing milk alternatives. And I think, I don't know, even 6 or 7 years ago, I never called myself a vegan, but I was probably 90% vegan. I didn't eat cheese, I didn't drink milk, but I would still enjoy things with dairy. I wasn't very strict about it. And my husband calls it a bait and switch, you know, Jeremy, but I wanted to slim down for my wedding. And so that's when I was like, okay, now I'm just going to give up anything that could make me bloated, including dairy and gluten. And so before I got married, that's kind of how I made sure that I looked bomb as fuck in my wedding with no dairy and no gluten.
Okay.
And it's funny because I've kind of always been the type of vegan or vegetarian that, number one, does it for my own health. But I think over the last few years, I've just realized that like environment and animal welfare is equally as important to me. But we've been talking a lot about veganism and how like eating plants in general can make you feel so much better. But I do want to point out that like eating vegan or gluten-free does not mean that you're eating healthy.
Oh, yeah.
What really changed my life was just focusing on eating like real foods.
Yeah.
This is like a kind of a switching conversation, but definitely very much part of my like eating journey was Labor Day weekend of 2018. I had 4 family members die in a plane crash, like all at once.
Oh.
And it was really detrimental to my mental health. And this was like after I had already lost my brother and my parents, and like it was just like a huge blow. In the plane crash was my aunt who helped raise me, her husband, and then another aunt and uncle. And it was just like the worst thing to ever happen in my family. And my mental health, like I said, was just like totally on the fritz. And I was having nightmares and just a lot of anxiety that I had never felt before. And I started researching what could make me feel better because I've always been hesitant to resort to pharmaceuticals because I come from a family of addicts. Like pretty much, I was thinking of it yesterday. I was like, wow, in my immediate family, like my sister and I are the only ones who have never really experienced addiction.
Wow.
Although I think we have like addiction to like working hard and proving ourselves and stuff. So it just manifested in a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like both of my brothers, my parents have all struggled. And, you know, I don't have a relationship with my mom anymore, and my brother passed away in 2011. So, like, the plane crash, I think, was really hard, but also brought up a lot of other things that had happened in my life. So that's when I decided to stop eating refined sugars and seed-based oils, and, like, I started looking at ingredient labels of every single thing I was eating. And I found it almost impossible to go out to eat and actually have, like, a healthy experience because even the healthiest vegan restaurants or even like True Food in Denver, like they use really shitty oils. Like they're cooking with like crappy vegetable oils that are cut with hexane. Don't get me wrong. Like their food is so delicious and it's a lot healthier, at least I think, than most other restaurants. But you know, they tout this inflammatory diet that's going to be good for your body and brain, but they're still using like really harmful oils, like vegetable oils, canola oils. Any seed-based oil is or can be linked to neurodegenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, which my grandma passed away from. But yeah, just going back to like the dopamine and the serotonin, like we literally, like you are what you eat. That's why I named my company Yayé. It stands for you are what you eat, you are your energy. Just a reminder that like we're products of our environment, and every piece of information we take in, whether it's food or content or the people we surround ourselves with, really affects how we think and who we are. So when it comes to what you're putting in your body, it's incredibly important for your mental health. And I started learning more about that. And this isn't something that happened like years ago. This was literally like 3 or 4 years ago. I really cleaned up my diet and saw like a complete shift in my mental health just by eating clean and making sure that I was eating real food. But that's basically why I started Yayé, because I was like, shit, I can't eat anything. Because now that I've flipped a switch in my brain and started looking at ingredient labels and asking restaurants what type of oil they use in their dressings, and, you know, asking like how much refined sugar they use or if they're using preservatives. Like I've asked every vegan restaurant in Denver if they use preservatives, what type of oil they use, etc. And every single one of them uses like vegetable oil blends to cook with, and like preservatives and refined sugars.
Just because it's the cheapest?
Yeah, it's a lot more economical, and like owning a restaurant is hard. Like the margins are slim.
Yeah.
Wow. Wait, so it went, plane crash and then Yayé?
Yeah, basically. So it was like vegetarian in high school, like kind of slowly transitioning to veganism throughout college and after college. And then before I got married, like absolutely going vegan and gluten-free just to slim down and, you know, feel and look my best. And then a year after I got married was the plane crash.
It's weird to see all these pushes in for you to have this diet, you know, and to like these life things that are happening
that are funneling you.
Wow, that's... Go ahead.
I have two thoughts. A couple minutes ago, you brought up how like not all vegan and gluten-free things are healthy for you. And I think it's amazing that there's so many vegan products coming out in the grocery store, and like Beyond Meat, and like all of these companies are getting into like fast food chains. But again, like, you know, you think like, oh, well, it's vegan, it's good for you. But that has been a concern for mine, because there's like all these fake chickens and fake meatballs and burgers and cheeses, but like, you know, there's so much fake shit in there. And I guess like the oil thing, I guess this is like a fun fact, because I didn't know this until recently. One of my best friends was eating a Beyond Meat burger every single day, and that has this shit ton of oil in it. And he was experiencing a lot of brain fog, and he was like, I just don't feel like myself. And he was like researching, and he came across the fact about oil, and how like pretty much all the oils on the market are bad for you except coconut, olive, and avocado. Those are the only ones that you should be cooking with, ingesting.
Oh, okay, good on olive.
Thank God. So fun fact for the audience, but he began looking at like, you know, all the labels of the food that he bought, and all of it has canola oil or like palm oil or seed oil or literally every oil that's bad for you.
Yeah, I'm happy to explain the science, because like this is me nerding out.
Let's go.
But there's this doctor, her name is Dr. Catherine Shanahan, and she has this book, and it's, oh my God, I'm going to try to remember the name of her book, but I know her name. It's
you could botch it.
I know.
And then we can link it.
Yeah, Dr. Catherine Shanahan wrote this awesome book, and she goes into like exactly what happens when you ingest any seed-based oil. And just so you guys know, like most seed-based oils are extracted using hexane, which I don't even know what hexane is, but it's really detrimental to your body.
Wow.
I feel like it's petroleum-based. It's a chemical. I don't actually know. But,
wow.
I'm going to go back to like the coconut oil, the avocado oil, and the extra virgin olive oil, because if you had those 3 things in your hands right now, like an olive, a coconut, and an avocado, you could extract oil out of those yourself. Like it's easy to get oil out of those things. Like those are oily things. Yeah, it's like minimal processing to get oil out of those 3 plants. But if you think about a seed, like if we have a bunch of seeds on the table right here, how the fuck do you get oil out of those?
Who thought of that?
Wow.
It's people who wanted to make a profit because they realized that like coconuts and olives and avocados are too expensive, and they wanted to make a significantly cheaper product that could be used across the country in fast food restaurants, or any restaurant for that matter. Like it's way too expensive for any restaurant to like make French fries out of high quality oils. Like they're always going to use the cheapest oil in their fryers. But if you go back to a seed, like the only way to extract oil out of a seed is to like heat it up really hot, process it, like use chemicals. There's no easy way to extract oil out of a seed. And when you disrupt like the chemical structure of anything, like any element or atom, whatever, and I am not a scientist, so like I don't want anyone to like hold me to exactly what I'm saying, but I do know that what I'm about to say is true. I might just not use like all of the correct terminology. But when you ingest products whose chemical balances have been like totally altered by like heat or pressure or like a chemical solvent like hexane, it disrupts the chemical structure of that product. So when you ingest that product, like all those electrons are unpaired. And if you remember from like, I don't know, high school chemistry class, electrons have to be in pairs.
Wow. Yeah.
And so like when those electrons are unpaired and you ingest that seed-based oil, it like scavenges your body to find a pair, because it's in your body just like moving around and doesn't know what to do and like needs to find a pair because it's unbalanced. So while it's scavenging your body to find a pair, it's causing a lot of like internal damage to your organs and cellular tissue and all of that. And that's like the definition of oxidative damage. If you've ever heard of like, oxidative damage is basically like what inflammation is on the inside of your body.
Wow.
And like, I think a really cool analogy that I read in Catherine Shanahan's book is like a very well-nourished brain is kind of like a well-nourished forest. Like if a forest has like a lot of precipitation and is well-nourished, if lightning strikes or something bad happens to that forest, the forest is in a really good position to like fight back and to be resilient and to not just blow up in flames or blow up. But your brain ingesting a bunch of seed-based oils is kind of like a dried up forest that has a lot of oxidative damage, almost like rust building up on your car. Like it's dry, and if anything happens
ready
to
for
your
fire.
Yeah, exactly. Like if your brain isn't well nourished and like lightning strikes, or in that case it'd be like if you got a concussion or if something really stressful happened in your life and your brain is not well nourished, then your whole brain is just going to go up in flames. And that could be like physically, like if you get a concussion, like your brain might literally swell and cause long-term damage, or it could be kind of more like metaphorical. Like if something stressful happens, then your whole life spirals out of control because you don't have that resiliency built up to be able to handle that. So anyways, our brain is like a forest, and like healthy fats like avocado oil and coconut oil and, extra virgin olive oil help to protect your brain, whereas those seed-based oils cause that oxidative damage to your brain and internal organs. And there are a lot of studies that link seed-based oils with neurodegenerative brain diseases, including Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, which like my grandmother, the one who raised me, passed away from Parkinson's. And I think like literally growing up, we had those huge bottle, or like not even bottles, like tubs of like the Cisco vegetable oil. I don't know if anyone else remembers growing up with those, but I think for her, it's more than just what you eat. It's like the chemicals you clean with. It's the self-care products you use. Like all of those different things influence how your body and brain feel.
So if like cigarettes are linked to cancer, and why aren't we being told about like oils being linked to like,
dude, it's money. It's like
so
money
Money makes the
involved.
world go around.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think people would care? I mean, people still smoke.
I mean,
for me, it's a guilty pleasure. Like, I eat French fries all the time.
Yeah.
Like, probably once or twice a week. Or
Same,
I would say
yeah.
I don't go out to eat that often because I mostly eat Yayé, and I'm a homebody when I'm in Denver. But, like, when I go out to eat, you better believe that, like, most of the time I'm ordering French fries.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
that's pretty
I
much
love
anywhere I
getting
go.
I mean,
French
they're
fries.
potatoes.
Yeah.
You know, potatoes when they're not, you know, fried in bad oils or covered in, you know, dairy products. They're actually like one of the healthiest foods on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
But I think of it as like a
treat.
Like a guilty pleasure. And I don't feel guilty because I know that like the vast majority of the time
Right.
I am nourishing my body with really clean, nutrient dense foods. But like, I never feel bad when I go out to a restaurant, which is, you know, relatively frequently, and like, smash a whole basket of fries.
So that's like at some point, all I can get. Like if I'm with a big
Yeah.
group of people and they want to go somewhere, that I'm like, look, don't worry about me. At the very least, I'm sure I could get fries at wherever we go, and that's totally fine with me. It's like a saving grace.
Yeah.
Well,
you
whenever.
just-
Oh, go
you
ahead.
have to think of it as like joy is a nutrient too. Like, you can't just be like super restrictive and not enjoy spending time with the people you love at places you love to visit. And
Yeah.
so like, you have to run that balance between nourishing yourself and then also giving yourself permission to, you know, be a
Yeah.
little bad and enjoy yourself while you do it.
Well, whenever you were reading up on your mental state and everything, and so you heard first, or you were reading first about the oils, like that would help you and everything like that. Like, when did you start noticing a change?
I would say almost immediately.
Okay.
It like the biggest change, like more so than, it's hard for me because it's been such a long journey that I can't just isolate like one individual thing, because I haven't eaten meat, you know, in more than half my life. So like, I don't know if it's, you know, the sheer act of giving up meat, or then eventually fully giving up dairy and gluten, and then eventually, you know, the seed-based oils and refined sugars. But like, I'm not absolutely strict on the oils and like refined sugars. Like, I still go out to eat, and I'll still go to like a really awesome vegan restaurant and get whatever's on their dessert menu. And I know it's like not necessarily good for me, but I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, like the number one thing that's helped me in my mental health has just been like eating real food. And I think the same is true for like my husband or some of the other really close people in my life, like my sister, or, you know, some of my cousins. It doesn't, like, you don't have to be vegan to be healthy. You don't have to be anything in particular to be healthy. You just have to be really mindful about what you're eating and eating how your ancestors ate. I'm not talking about like your grandparents during the Great Depression, because that's when food started to become really industrialized. And like, my grandma made potatoes out of a box growing up.
Right.
Like when I was growing up, like that, like potatoes out of a box, like, you know, the flakes, like those are not healthy.
What was that called? What was the brand? What was
I'm
that?
having a hard time remembering.
I know.
But I loved those.
It was the
things.
Aunt Jemima days, like
Yeah.
the syrups and the box stuff.
Bisquick.
Yes,
Something
yes.
like
Oh my
that.
gosh. Or Hamburger Helper. I mean,
Hamburger
Oh
Helper.
my god, Jeremy loves hamburger.
I do too.
Sometimes
Well,
I'll, like,
you
find
can
a
make it
box.
vegan. Like, well, you can't. I don't know about gluten free,
could
but yeah.
Yeah. But no, it all comes down to just like eating real food. If you don't recognize it and if you can't pronounce it, then your body won't recognize it either.
Yeah,
Oh.
like you probably want to find foods that have like the least amount of ingredients in them. Can you do you know anything about the importance of organic food versus not?
Yeah, I mean, organic is important. So I was actually talking to someone yesterday. He's like, what about those, because we were talking about oils too, and he's like, what about the avocado oil chips? Like, you know, potato chips with avocado oil. They're so delicious, and I do buy them, but I still think of them as like a
Not
cheat,
that great.
Yeah, or like a more of like a cheat snack, not necessarily like a staple in my healthy diet. And like, I haven't found any like chip brands that are organic and use high quality oils, maybe because it's too expensive. But like, I have a friend who used to work on a potato farm randomly, and it was not an organic farm. And after they sprayed the like huge pasture or whatever of potatoes, the employees were not allowed to walk on that farmland for 2 days. And so if those pesticides that you're spraying on like the vegetables that we're going to eat, if the people who work there can't walk around that area for 2 days, like why is it okay for us to then eat those foods? Eating organic is so important, and it's not just like for our own health, it's also for like the health of the people who work on those farms.
Oh my gosh.
Because like if it's like even organic farms do use quote unquote like pesticides, but they're normally like natural pesticides that obviously try to like keep pests away, because that's a huge problem with organic farming. But if it's a non-organic farm, they're using like synthetic petroleum derived.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for the organic stuff.
I ordered I was grocery shopping this morning, and I was like, I needed a zucchini squash, and it was like zucchini squash organic, and I was like, what's the difference? And I just got the other one, and now I'm like, fuck, damn it.
It's okay.
Like most people don't even. It's like it all comes down to, I guess, just like having an influence in your life that teaches you this, or you come across something, because like you don't know. Like the average person doesn't know. Like, because they don't look any different.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why would I spend like a couple bucks more on something organic if it does the same thing?
And one argument, me and my older sister kind of get into it sometimes, just because she's like, well, wish I could be vegan, but I can't afford it. And I'm like, I don't really think that it's that much. I mean, maybe organic, but I'm like, rice and beans and chili and all that stuff, and that seems to be the same price.
It's also like,
I think meat's expensive.
I always say I'm a cheap date. Like when I go to like a nice sushi restaurant.
Yeah, we get the avocado roll.
My bill's like $20 and everyone else is like
I know.
And also like typically like when you're vegan, you more so cook at home, and like you save so much money cooking.
I know. I was like, I think that's just what people say.
That's an excuse.
I was like, I think that, yeah. And so I don't really think it's that much more. I don't think it's more expensive. I think meat's really expensive now, right?
Yeah, I think the issue is like not everyone has the choice over what they eat. Like if they're a young person that relies on their parents to buy all of their food, they don't necessarily have choice. I mean, your little sister, I heard she's making bank on TikTok.
Yeah, but she don't know how to cook. Like, I'm like, damn, all that time on TikTok and you can't learn how to cook. No, she's like, I can't wait to move to Denver, then I'll be able to eat vegan. And I'm like,
yeah. But I do agree with you that for most people in America, especially if they're, middle class or even like some lower middle class, like they can afford to eat vegan. If they're going to the grocery store and buying a bunch of meat products, like it's very economical to switch those out with plant-based products.
Yeah, I think so too.
Why do you think there's still so much like resistance? But it's kind of like, you're vegan. Like,
my
it's
dad,
like a thing to poke at.
My dad will, if it says vegan, or if he knows it's vegan, he will not eat it. He will not have anything to do with it.
I think the word vegan has a really negative connotation.
Why?
So
It's like,
I am happy that people are using the word plant-based. I don't know. I worked the farmer's market in Boulder.
I think people can be aggressive with
this summer. And like I tried, and even with our marketing at Yayé, unless we're specifically marketing to a target audience of vegan people, we don't use the word vegan in our marketing collateral, because we use the word plant-based, but we're not really trying to go after people who are specifically vegan. Like we want everyone to eat our food because it allows people to incorporate more, fruits and vegetables into their diet, which are nature's oldest medicine.
That is true. Like plant-based has a more like
a softer tone,
fluid. Like there's more fluidity to it.
Yeah, and you can eat plant-based or base your diet on plants without exclusively eating plant-based. Like you don't have to be, I think people think there's a huge barrier to entry because they think they have to be all or nothing. And saying you're vegan kind of brings on a lot of external judgment, or like people really hold you to those high standards.
Or they get so like frazzled of like, what are you going to eat? And I'm like, well, I got this. Like, like, and people are like, are you going to get mad if I eat like meat in front of you? I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, do what you want.
It depends.
Exactly. I just think people like, they have all these notions around veganism, and it's like,
they're so protective.
People eat
like,
vegan all the time without realizing it. Like,
Yeah.
someone's like, "Oh, I didn't have time to eat lunch today. I just ate an apple with peanut butter for lunch." I'm like, "You fucking ate a vegan lunch."
My dad one day, you know, he was talking about like he doesn't want anything to do with vegan food. He doesn't whatever. And this same night he was eating chili, and I was looking at the chili he was eating, and it was Annie's or whatever, and it's all vegan chili, and he's just sitting there like eating it, talking shit about how he wouldn't eat vegan food. And I have never ever said anything, and I do not. He doesn't listen to this, so, but I'm like, damn, you're eating something vegan. And probably often, and that's good for me because I just want him to be healthy. So I'm just like, oh, yes. But if that said vegan on it, even though he had been eating it and had been eating it for years, if it all of a sudden said vegan on it that he paid attention to, he would not have anything to do with it, which is crazy to me. Just like, and I think that's just
how some people they're scared of change.
Yeah,
it's like a stubbornness. I kind of want to touch on like you have a background in environmental sustainability.
Yeah, I went to the University of Colorado at Boulder and graduated with environmental science and physical geography.
Wow. Damn. And has that kind of like played a factor into this? You know, you said that you went more plant-based for personal reasons, which I did as well. And then after I made that decision is when I kind of found out about how detrimental it is to like our environment. Like the meat and dairy industry are like the main contributors to climate change. So can you, I guess, like touch on that a little bit, like what's going on and like what is actually happening?
Yeah, so like cattle production is definitely the number one driver in terms of like the food industry, but agriculture in general consumes 90% of all the water used by humanity. And that includes plant-based agriculture and, you know, animal-based agriculture. But the meat and dairy industries alone use 1/3 of the Earth's fresh water.
That's insane.
Which is insane. It's just unsustainable in general because to feed the animals who feed us, you have to
so much water.
You have to use so much land and water to do so. So by eating plant-based, you're really like cutting out the middleman.
Someone was, when I said that this was actually a lawyer that I said this to, and a southern area, and I was like, yeah, blah blah blah, vegan. She was like, well, did you know that actually it takes way more water to make almond milk than it does to do cattle farming? And I was just like, where did you hear that? Like, I don't, like, do you know anything about that? Because I still, one, have never looked it up, but two, just thought it was wild.
So I don't necessarily know in terms of the comparison between like almond production and cattle production, but I do think about this every time I order like coffee or like a milky drink at a cafe, because like almonds are one of the most water intensive crops.
Yeah.
And so I often opt for oat milk when I go like out for coffee or something similar, because it takes a lot less water to produce oats. And so I can't speak directly to that girl's comment, but I find it hard to believe. Like cattle production is definitely.
I was like, okay, well then there's the other things of, you know, not killing something.
Right.
So it was I was just like, oh, wasn't expecting that. But do you think that it's realistic for everyone to be plant-based?
I think that in our lifetime we will see a lot of people eating plant-based. I think most people by the time we're, you know, in our older age will be like consider themselves flexitarians, which is kind of what my sister is. Like she eats everything, but when she's eating at home and she's purchasing food for herself, like she's pretty much vegan. And then when she goes out to eat and someone orders something family style, or if she goes to a friend's house for dinner and they cooked this like elaborate stew with meat in it, like she'll eat it because she doesn't want to offend anyone. So I think a large number of millennials and like Gen Zers are already identifying as flexitarian, and I think that trend's going to continue for sure.
I haven't heard that term yet. I was, I guess, a flexitarian for a couple of years before I decided to go vegan. It was like I ordered vegan stuff and plant-based things, but I didn't want to commit because, you know, like I had a boyfriend and we would eat sushi and like we liked scallops and like maybe there was like caramel in something. So there was like this flexibility that I wanted to keep. And then I just ended I pulled the trigger, but
yeah. One day you were just fully vegan, and I was like, oh.
I had a dream about it, and I was like, all right.
I turned whenever I was vegan first, and then it was Allison, and then it was you, and then and then other friends have like kind of like trickled in, and then now they're gone. Now they eat meat again and everything because they get pregnant. Which I was gonna ask you about, like, how is, like, you know, when it comes to being pregnant and everything, which I know you don't have kids yet, and so you haven't dealt with like cravings and stuff, but for the people that have been in your life that have, like, that were vegan first, do they have a hard time fighting cravings for meat whenever they're pregnant? Like, have you dove in about any of that?
I've definitely known people who like started eating meat again once they got pregnant. The people I specifically knew, they weren't vegan or vegetarian for very long before they got pregnant. So I think for them, it was a relatively like easy transition back. I don't see myself doing that. I will do anything it takes to like eat animal flesh again.
What is that craving? Just like the iron in the blood, or like what?
I feel like it might have something to do with iron, but like you can get a ton of iron from dark leafy greens like kale and spinach as well. And like I donate blood, and I've never had an iron deficiency, because if you don't have enough iron in your blood, you can't donate it. And ever since I've become a vegetarian, I've been, you know, donating my blood, and I've never had an issue personally.
I think the biggest thing that I get the most is where do you get your protein? What's your B12? Like, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Protein isn't so much.
Also, people think that they need more than they actually need. I'm just like, unless you're working out all the time, you need to chill. Like, there's no, like, the amount that I get, and granted, I've been working out with a trainer for almost 6 months now, and so I have been upping the protein that I've been taking, and I have been seeing a fast change. But for the people that are saying these things to me, the people out at bars and just not doing anything with their body like that, I'm just like, why are you bringing that up to me? Like,
some of the world's top athletes and Olympians are vegan.
Yeah,
isn't like Serena Williams vegan?
Well, also the strongest man, the strongest man, I don't know if it's the world, but
like Guinness World.
Yeah, like he's
World
vegan. Yeah, and he was in the Olympics, and I'm just like, so I didn't know what do you say to people when they say that to you?
It kind of depends on where they are at their journey, because I have people come up to me all the time and try to argue that, like, you know, meat is necessary in any diet. And I just think you need to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about energy earlier, and I always like to go back to this, but like, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is only transferred and transformed. And if we're all made up of energy, and you can feel the energy in the room, and if we can all agree that like animals are sentient beings, because like, let's face it, like the hot dogs we eat, like those pigs are way smarter than most dogs. Oh, definitely smarter than my dog, if you've ever met Tucker. But like they know what's going on. Like when they're in a factory farm, which is like 99% of the meat produced in the US is factory farmed, like they know what's happening. Like they're, you know, ripped from their mothers. They're like kept in these really enclosed areas. They're stressed. They know they're being sent to their deaths.
Dude, they cry.
Yeah, they can hear like the screeching from other animals. And when you're really stressed, I'm saying you in general, like us or any animal, our body releases cortisol. It's like the stress hormone.
It's a fight or flight.
Yeah, and when you die, like that cortisol is trapped in your flesh. So when we eat the flesh of an animal that's been just like flooded with cortisol, that traumatizing, like negative, anxiety-ridden energy transfers to us.
Right. I 100% agree. Like I remember thinking about that on like a spiritual level. It's like, I'm literally eating a murdered animal who didn't want to die. Like how that energy is being transferred.
And I have two things. One thing that I get from people a lot, they're like, you know, because I used to be a pretty like aggressive vegan online. I think we all go through that phase. And so that one person said to me, they're like, what about, you know, if you raise a cow and then it has this like amazing life, and then, or like for like a couple of years, and then, you know, then you kill it. And I'm just like, there's no humane way to kill something that doesn't want to die. I'm just like, there's no like, you can't give it a good life and then kill it and then it's fine. If it doesn't want to die, then there's no ethical part of that. And then I don't understand why it's okay to eat pigs and cows and chickens and not dogs or cats. Like I literally don't get that.
Oh yeah, we're like a super speciesist society. I do believe in the food chain. Like I think we're all part of it. And I do think that there's like more humane ways of killing animals and less humane ways. So like I personally don't think that eating animals is wrong or like ethically inhumane per se, but I do think that like 99.9% of the meat that we consume is just like atrociously treated.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because that was a part of our survival, like in way back when we like needed to like hunt.
And
but
there is evidence that it's humans ingesting meat in general like helped us develop our brains to be able to be smart enough to like create the iPhone and stuff. I'm kind of like jumping like thousands of years in history, but there is evidence that like eating animal protein helped our brains develop so that we could ultimately become like the dominant species on the world, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but there is evidence to support that.
I saw this thing online. I'm trying to find it right now that I so very much agreed with. And it was this picture of this person, and they were sitting down, and oh my God, I want to find it so bad. Anyway, basically, it was just like if you kill a cockroach, you're a hero, but if you kill a butterfly, you're a terrible person. And it was just like our society is based on aesthetics. And I was thinking about that, and when I connected that with like the pig and like the cow and versus like chicken or dog or versus like cats and dogs, and I was just like, I mean, I kind of wanted your opinion on that as far as like what you think. Like, do you?
It's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world when I have friends on social media who repost things from like what's it called, APSCA, like the
ASPCA.
Yeah. I was like, Africa? I don't know. But when I see people repost things from them and they show all of these abandoned or traumatized dogs and cats or just, traditional pets that have been abused, but then they're like in line at McDonald's, like with a selfie of their, hamburger. I just think that's very hypocritical.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it's hypocritical, but I think it's, the way that we've been groomed in America, that's not even crossing their minds.
Yeah, like people compartmentalize it.
Yeah, like Stephanie and I were, making questions last night, and when you go into a grocery store, everything like raw meat is just like put in pretty packaging, and it's colorful, and it's like in plastic, and we're so far disconnected from the actual process of like what it's like to grow an animal and fucking kill it, cut it up into slices, package it, and send it off. Like, so it's not even, it's made it like too convenient for us.
We don't even call it by what it is. It's like, that's a cow. No, that's beef. That's a hamburger. Like, oh, like that's bacon. No, that's a pig.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like purposely done to like just make things easy for us and, keep on keeping on.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, marketing and like, money makes the world go round. Like you kind of asked the question earlier, like, why are we this way? It all comes down to marketing, and the meat and dairy industries have been marketing to us since before we were born.
I get annoyed a little bit when I was a more aggressive vegan, people would be like, well, I love animals. And I'm just like, I think that you should just say that you think that they're cute. Because if you actually loved animals, you would not eat them. And I just think that there's that disconnect too, and like where we are compartmentalizing things. It's like you don't though, because if you did, you would. Because I can't even. It's really hard for me to even imagine squashing a bug if it were in here. I just like that's the thought of like ending any type of energy or like killing something, stopping something from being alive is like really fucks with me. I mean, granted, if there's a spider in my bed, it's me or you, but you're out. And so like there's a difference in that with me. But as far as like, I can't imagine looking at an animal in the face and killing it. And so it's just odd to me when people are like, I love animals, but they are eating them. And so I just like that disconnect is there with me too. And I'm just like, I don't get it. But yeah.
People always hear that I'm vegan and they're like, oh, you must like be a huge animal lover. And it's really funny because like I've mentioned this a couple times, but I grew up with my grandparents. We had white carpet. My grandma was allergic to dogs. I was not allowed to have pets.
Oh yeah.
And so like I've never really been like a huge animal person. When I see a cute puppy, like I love, you know, going over to them and getting to play with them, and I love like petting other people's dogs, but like I am not a dog person. I don't need a dog. The only reason I have one right now is because my husband is a big dog person.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like the stepmom, you know? But I respect animals. I do love them, but just because you're vegan doesn't mean that like you want a bunch of pets in your house.
No,
and you love all
yeah.
of them. And so it's funny because that's definitely a stereotype that I get.
Yeah.
People think that like I'm a huge animal person, and I'm like, nope, I can respect them from afar. Like, I don't need them on my couch.
She's just
or
gonna
in
have
my
like
bed.
a farm.
I'm obsessed with cows. Like, cows
They're really
are
cute.
fucking beautiful.
And they're so smart, and people, and I mean, obviously I love chickens.
I'm going to be a farm girl one day. Mark my words, y'all.
You definitely will be. I guess to kind of go back to environmental sustainability, you know, what are things that people can do every day to kind of conserve the earth with that? Like, what are some stuff that you know off the top of your head, or even things that you do?
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to touch on that we haven't really mentioned is fish.
I mean, I
know,
still
I would
haven't
love to
watched
talk about
Seaspiracy.
Oh, you need to.
Fuck. Okay.
The thing is like every documentary you watch, you have to watch it with a grain of salt, because they are, I think when you're trying to make a case for anything that you believe in, you're gonna, you know, use the stats that are more advantageous to you getting your point across. And so I think Seaspiracy is a great documentary. I recommend everyone watch it, and I learned so much. But I also have like a small degree of skepticism. I believe like 99% of what they said, but I don't know, any documentary you watch, like they could be
It's to their benefit.
Exactly. They could be like inflating or just kind of like saying things in a way that brings more shock and awe.
Right.
So with Seaspiracy, one of the things that I learned, and there is obviously a lot of like evidence to back this up elsewhere on the internet and in, you know, different research studies, but our farming, like our basically fishing industry accounts for more than 50% of the like plastic waste in the ocean. And that's primarily from plastic fishing nets.
Oh, wow.
And so it's hilarious because like the entire country and maybe different parts of the world have had this huge push to get rid of plastic straws. But in Seaspiracy, they give the stat that like plastic straws make up 0.03% of the plastic waste in the ocean.
So one turtle with a straw in and the world loses it.
I know.
But, I mean.
But like literally, like if you consume fish, you're contributing to the
50%
of waste in the
and just the fact that we are running out of fish. Like,
that's a huge statistic. And I mean, recycling, fucking do it. But like, you know, there's so much, as far as like my little LA bubble, I'm absolutely in a bubble. Like, you know, nobody in Arkansas or the people I grew up with today, like recycling what? Like, what is it? But it's interesting that the fishing industry has like that big of a percentage when, you know, individually I'm over here like stressing like, damn, like that plastic doesn't go in that bin, like, and I'll move it.
I take all of my plastic film like back to the grocery store. Like the bigger grocery stores like King Soopers or Kroger, they have like the plastic, like the loose plastic recycling. Like I conserve all of that for like 3 months, and then I bring this like huge knapsack of like plastic to the grocery store.
What they're working on, and it's out, it's just a little bit more expensive, you know, like money makes the world go round. But I think, you know, as things progress, things will get cheaper. But there's dissolvable cardboard in boxes now and dissolvable plastic. So as soon as that starts becoming more mainstream, and, you know, big companies follow the dollar, they follow like, we vote with our dollar. So they'll follow what we are purchasing, which is why we're starting to see so many more vegan like products being like coming out, because that's where the consumer, there's a lot of money in it right now. So as soon as like, it becomes a little bit cheaper to distribute like those dissolvable packaging. Like I think that'll be a huge step. I mean, hopefully it doesn't fucking release chemicals into the ocean, because my God.
Yeah. It's
like there's something.
You just have to do your part, because like sometimes you just can't win. Like a lot of the more sustainable, we call it plastic, but it's actually like polylactic acid, which is a corn-based plastic. That is compostable, not recyclable. So you have to have access to industrial composting to be able to break it down. And only like large cities have access to industrial composting, where it goes into this huge facility where it's constantly aerated and like broken down quickly, because that stuff can't break down in your backyard. But when like compostable things like the PLA, corn-based plastic goes into recycling or like into a landfill, it just breaks down anaerobically and produces methane anyways. So it's just important to like educate yourself and do your part, because like none of us are ever going to be perfect. Like I consider myself a sustainable person, but like I use single-use plastic all the time, and I'm not proud of it, but I also think that like I am doing my part by not consuming animal products.
There's mindfulness there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like if everyone did their part, our world would be in a much better place. Like we're not asking anyone to be perfect or to be, a model citizen. You just have to be aware of your surroundings and of what's going on inside your own body and mind.
I just read this book called A New Earth by Edgar Tolle, and it really has nothing to do with like food or sustainability or anything.
Tangents.
Yeah, but it's called A New Earth, and it's just talking about, the collective consciousness. And at the very end of the book, it was saying, you have your like bigger, like more universal purpose, and then you have like your earthly purpose. And your purpose, I don't know if I want to use the word should, but like, is to awaken and to like awaken those around you. And it's like your fucking duty to do that. And no matter what you're doing on earth, whether that's through photography or a podcast, through like any of these other mediums that we have, like we can awaken others. Like it's our duty. So we've used a lot of words in this episode that are like mindfulness, awareness, like, and consciousness, and like all of these words where I'm like, yeah, like, it's our duty to kind of like awaken each other to create like a better earth.
Cute.
Yeah.
That take a lot out of you.
I think
passionate
like
about it.
Fundamentally we are all souls, and our bodies were given to us to experience this earthly plane. And I'm not religious. Like I don't know if I believe in an afterlife, but I do believe that like our spirits or our energy go somewhere when our bodies die. And you only get one body, so you got to take care of it.
Yeah, that's another thing I don't really understand, when people are eating like the way that they're eating, and they just like don't care. And I'm like, how do you not care? This is the base of anything. When you have no money, when you have no friends, when you have no family,
this
when
is
you
your
have
home.
This is all you literally have. So I don't get why people don't eat and take care of themselves. And I mean, I know some people can't too. So then I'm like, well, fuck. But I don't know. It's just something that I wonder about for the people that can and don't. I'm just like, damn, I just don't get it.
I think it's easy to like turn a blind eye when you're not educated to it. But one of the things that's been monumental for me in my health journey is fully understanding what happens to my body at like a cellular level when I ingest different types of food. Because like food forms the building blocks of our DNA. Like when you get hurt or your cells need to regenerate, like that regenerative cell doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes out of the food we eat. And me understanding that and knowing like what happens when I'm eating a lot of sugar or when I'm eating a lot of processed food or oils, like at a fundamental level, I know what's going on in my body. Like I talked earlier about the oxidative damage and the unpaired electrons, like scavenging your internal organs and cellular tissue. Like once you know, it totally flips a switch in your brain.
It's much easier to remain ignorant.
Totally.
Like, you know what I mean? I've heard people be like, I don't want to know, like, it'll fuck with me. Like,
ignorance is bliss.
Right. Like, I don't want to know. Like, they won't watch the vegan documentaries, Seaspiracy, because it's like, no, that'll fuck with me. Like, I can't. And I'm like, well, that's the fucking purpose.
Yeah. Some you just can't. I mean,
you just can't.
Yeah. There was literally me who I was like that for a second. I was like, oh, no, vegans are so, and then beans were mentioned. I was like, okay. Like, it's so stupid. Like you just have to. It has to be that switch.
You're going to have people sending you a bunch of beans after this.
Fine. Sounds great. I do kind of want to talk about gluten. Like I became gluten-free in August because of my body was, I gained 30 pounds since last August, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with my body. I was getting blood work done because the doctors were like, the weight that you're gaining is the amount of weight if you were eating fast food every day and like not working out, but you're vegan and you have an active lifestyle. So we couldn't figure it out. And after getting blood work done, they were like, something is attacking your thyroid, which is attacking your cortisol, which is attacking your hormones, which is causing your ADHD to flare up, which is doing all this stuff. And after blood work and tests, they still couldn't figure it out. And then eventually it was in August, I had tortillas and went to a Mexican restaurant, as I always do. And when I went home, and I also had sourdough bread that day as well. And when I went home, my friend was like, my wrists were burning, my skin was burning, my ankles were burning. I was like having like something, like some type of like red vein was coming on my thigh. And I was extremely bloated. And my friend was like, hey, like you are like, something's going on with you. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. I felt so uncomfortable. And so I kind of just like mentally prepared myself to be like, okay, I think this is gluten. Something just kind of like hit, and I hadn't had it since then. And when I went back to the doctor 2 months later, they were like, your blood work is fine now. And they were like, you're not celiac, so we don't really know. You just have an intolerance to it, I guess. And it has fucked me up. So I just wanted, and a lot of people don't know what gluten is. They don't know anything about it.
What the fuck is it? Why is it in food?
What does it do to your body?
Like, what is it?
I'm gonna, like, I have a very similar personal experience to you where like my body wasn't doing well and I stopped eating gluten and like cured everything. Obviously it was more complicated than that, but I've noticed that I feel so much better not eating gluten. But I will not pretend to be the expert when it comes to like gluten-free eating or celiac disease. I have my own personal experience, but at a very high level, like wheat 100 years ago is not the same as it is now. Like we've genetically modified it to a point where it's like unrecognizable to our bodies. And if you think about like our entire food system, like we've engineered things to be cheaper and honestly less nutrient dense than ever. And so like, I don't like, if people want to know like what gluten is generally like in the most simple terms, it's wheat. Okay. And so there's a lot of grains that are gluten-free, like quinoa and oats are some of the more popular gluten-free grains.
Rice?
So rice is gluten-free.
Okay, I eat rice all the motherfucking
and so
time.
yeah, like exactly. I pretty much, in terms of my grains, I live on rice and quinoa and oats. Yeah. Like those are my 3 go-tos. And then like any other like grain product that you think of that's like wheat based, including farro. And obviously most of like the breads and pasta and couscous. Yeah, like those are all gluten. And I personally don't know all of the science behind why gluten affects people or has helped to like perpetuate celiac disease. But what I do know is that like genetically modified food, I'm sure it has its like industrial benefits of feeding more people and ending world hunger, but like it doesn't do much for our bodies. And sometimes I like to use the analogy of like the importance of eating wild food. So if you're eating food, like there's a gentleman that I followed, there's a lot of skepticism about him as well, called the Medical Medium, that really encourages people to eat as many wild fruits and vegetables as possible, like literally things that can grow on their own in a field without necessarily being like planted or like harvested regularly and stuff. And eating wild foods is so important because if you think about those different foods, like they can fight disease, they can fight drought. Like they've been through the fucking ringer wherever they grow. Like most of the food that we cultivate in America or throughout the world, like it is like
little
perfectly.
babies.
Yeah, it's like they're planted on a farm. They're watered super regularly. They're
spoiled
They're
as
spoiled.
fuck.
I know.
Brats.
Yeah, and so like eating wild food is really important because when you ingest food that is really resilient and is able to fight drought, then you're better able to fight like dehydration once you eat those foods. Or if you've eaten a food that's really good at like, I don't know, like resisting like, I guess like pests or like anything like that, like a disease, then once you ingest that food, like your body is better able to fight disease. And so I think of like genetically modified crops as like the opposite of wild food. Right. And I know why it's important to eat wild food. So naturally that makes it easier for me to like avoid a lot of the genetically modified foods.
Yeah. Would gluten-free pasta and stuff be like genetically modified, all that stuff? Is that bad?
That's like another important reason to eat organic, because if it's organic, it is not genetically modified.
Okay, good to know. Fun fact.
Yeah.
That's like
you can't be genetically modified and also be organic.
Okay, good to know. Do people just like, because I come across like products that aren't gluten-free and I'm like, do they just like pump gluten in there? That's how my head's always like. I'm like, for like a dessert or something.
We don't really know what it is.
Yeah, well, I think it's also important. Like, Steph, you and I, like, we're not celiac. Like, we're very sensitive to gluten. But, like, for example, Yayé, we're not certified gluten-free. I'd like to get that certification in the future. In many ways, it's just like paying another governmental agency money to give you, like, a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, the USDA organic symbol is kind of like that as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the biggest. I don't trust the FDA that much, you know, they're just a government agency that like lets anything slide in a lot of ways. But like something doesn't have to have like the gluten-free stamp of approval to be gluten-free.
Yeah, it just costs money to do that.
Exactly. And a lot of but it's important, like celiacs, they need to make sure that they're eating food that has not been exposed to other products containing gluten. So like a lot of the cereals you eat, even if they're oat based, they might not be gluten free because they were manufactured on like a surface that like, because factory equipment, it's really hard to switch it out or like clean all the factories. So like a lot of different companies might produce their food product on the same factory line as another company. And if one company uses gluten and the next company that comes through and uses that same like factory line doesn't use gluten, that second company can't say it's gluten-free because it touched like the same type of equipment as a non-gluten-free company. So like even at Yayé, like we're really careful. Like we don't share equipment with anyone. Like we don't allow gluten into our like specific kitchen and all of that. But even though we are gluten-free, we're technically not certified gluten-free. And there's like a wide spectrum of like cross-contamination.
That's literally crazy that it's like that easy. It can transfer that easily.
That's for someone who's like deathly celiac. Like for someone who's just sensitive to it, like I would never know if like this thing touched the surface of something that might have touched gluten. But some people are really sensitive and have to be specific. Damn. But most people are okay with a little cross-contamination. And when you go to a restaurant and they say something's gluten-free, or like if you go to a bakery and they have like a gluten-free section and a non-gluten-free section, there's no freaking way that like their gluten-free section is going to be certified gluten-free because they baked it in the same facility. Like if you have two different rooms, but they share an HVAC system, like the gluten-free room cannot be certified gluten-free because like gluten molecules could have traveled through the HVAC system. Technically. But like a celiac, it's so unlikely that they would get sick from like gluten molecules traveling through an HVAC system, but it's crazy. I guess it's technically possible. So like if you want to be a gluten-free certified facility, you have to be like a standalone facility with your own HVAC system.
They need to fucking create gluten-free facilities.
I mean, people are trying. It's just like a huge...
Is this a growing thing? Like people are becoming more and more intolerant to it?
I think so. I mean, I have like, the older I get, I feel like the less tolerant I am.
I feel like when I turned 30, everything just like broke.
Well, like, your body's like getting like, weaker the older we get.
You have to look forward to.
It can't fight off things as well.
Well, I heard that, if you go to Italy or wherever, you can eat their bread and you can eat their pastas. Why is that?
It has to do with the fact that it's like not genetically modified, and a lot of places in Italy, like they'll be using like 100-plus-year-old like sourdough starter kits. Wow. And I'm not a sourdough expert. Like I don't really know much about making sourdough. Bread, but like they're using like a really ancestral foundation that.
So I could eat that? I think you can eat
sourdough.
I
think you could test it. Well,
that's what originally, I don't know.
I was at a resort like a year ago, and I had like 5 pieces of their sourdough bread because the server was like, oh, the sourdough starter is like 150 years old and we've been keeping it in the family. And I was like, okay, give me all the bread. And I didn't get sick. But it's just something you have to like test yourself. Like obviously celiacs shouldn't test that because like they could really hurt themselves. But for someone like me or you who's just like gluten intolerant and might just feel like shit for 24 hours, I feel like the joy of eating sourdough is like outweighs me potentially feeling shitty the next day if I know that it's like a really old sourdough starter.
Man, when that one day happened to me, because a lot of people since then they're like, oh, you're vegan and gluten free, like blah blah blah, and I'm like, I haven't even thought twice about the gluten stuff because I never want to feel that way again. That was that was painful. I felt disgusting. I just was like, what? And it's easy to make a quick change with your body when you can eat something and it literally makes you feel terrible. Like I never want to do that again, but I do kind of miss sourdough.
Kudos to you for like intuitively listening to your body. It's really hard for a lot of people to do that.
It was a long 6 months of just being like, what the fuck is going on? I was like running 3 miles a day. So that was also a bad thing too, because I was eating gluten plus running. So whenever you run, especially that much, your cortisol levels are so high. And then if you're eating gluten, that's attacking your immune system, which is also raising your cortisol levels. So anytime I was eating, my body was so stressed that it was just packing everything on, because it was like, well, I don't know when we're going to eat again. We're fight or flight. Something's attacking us. And so it was really crazy.
Didn't Yayé help you? Like, because Yayé is just like naturally gluten free, so you started eating gluten free.
Yes,
and
and
your body's
I felt
like,
good when I was consistent.
We like this gluten free lifestyle.
Yes, I started just eating Yayé, and I'm like, I have to have it now. I fly with it. I take it with me everywhere. It was so helpful, and it just, whenever I stopped like going to eating and like, I was like eating tortilla chips and stuff a lot.
I still eat tortilla chips,
but
like,
I was
at least
going
every
like,
other day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make Yayé nachos tonight with tortilla chips. Yeah, I should have brought you some.
Yeah, you should have brought some.
I'm sorry.
Well, we do want to talk about Yayé. How was it starting it on your own and being a woman in this industry?
It has been the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And I shared a bit about my life earlier. Like I have not had an easy life, but like starting Yayé has by far been the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. I think for me, it's mostly because I like started Yayé as a restaurant 6 weeks before the pandemic started. So I opened my doors on February 1st of 2020. And then literally March 16th is when the world shut down. At least that's when Denver shut down. So I had just put like all of my life savings and blood, sweat, and tears and like all of my just energy in general into opening a restaurant that ultimately failed a few weeks later. So like picking myself back up and building the meal delivery service and kind of starting from the ground up again took a lot. But we're already like a year and a half into the meal service, and we had our biggest 2 weeks the last 2 weeks, so that's very exciting. Good. I still haven't been able to pay myself a salary, so I'm hoping to do that this year.
And that, they say that takes what, like it could take 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm hoping to do it before the 3-year mark.
How do people treat people, or how do people treat others in the food industry?
I've witnessed a lot of kindness and understanding. I think the pandemic has been so hard for everyone that we're all just trying to do our best. Yeah. And so I think people really like working with Yayé because we are very mindful people. Like it's totally a generalization, but a lot of the times, like if you are aware enough to eat plant-based or, you know, live more of a plant-based lifestyle, then you might also be more likely to be understanding of like others and their situations. I think it all goes together, just like mindfulness. It's contagious. And so people really like working with us because we're just kind and considerate and understanding. And I think that goes a long way, and that's how our vendors treat us back. So we've had a really, really good experience, but it's not to say it's not hard. Like a few months ago, our delivery service called us up the day before a huge delivery day and just dropped us.
Damn.
I'm like, you couldn't have given us like a week or two heads up. And so like I ended up like driving for like so many hours that next day, and everyone on my team, and I called every friend of mine and I was like, I'll give you a free meal plan if you drive for 4 hours for me today. And so like there's just so many unexpected things in the food industry right now, and like every cost imaginable has been going up, like the fuel charges for us to get our deliveries out, the actual food itself. Like my chefs have been having to go to like 10 different grocery stores like daily to get what we need.
What the fuck's up with that?
Yeah, what's
because
going on?
our food vendor, like our distributors and the farms that we work with, they just don't have the inventory that we need, and so we'll order it from them and they'll send us an email being like, oh, we can't get you like half the stuff you ordered. So then we have to go scramble.
Well,
and then labor
the
is so much more
grocery stores have been
now.
ransacked recently.
Yeah, everywhere I go. I was in Hawaii.
It's
they
really
were
hard to
ransacked
find
here.
spinach right now. I think
And why is this on the news? Like every grocery store I've been in, I'm like, is the pandemic happening again? Like,
I think it has like, and again,
stopped.
I do not pretend to be an expert, but I think it's twofold. I think it's number one, like climate related factors that are reducing the amount of crop that can be harvested, whether it's like areas that are hotter and drier than normal and forest fires happening, or places that are
that's scary,
receiving more precipitation than normal. It's just like the world is changing rapidly and climate change is real. But it's also just like our labor shortage, and we have so many like huge what do you call them? Like the big like shipping freight things?
Shipping cargo.
Shipping container.
Yeah.
I can't even remember the word shipping container. There's like so many shipping containers that are just sitting at ports right now because we don't have enough truck drivers to drive them across the country.
Is that just food?
And so
being
I don't I don't know
spoiling?
I don't know if that's like food specifically. I'm sure there is some food spoiling, but that's kind of just like our product industry in general, not necessarily food. Like we have a lot of products sitting at ports right now.
Wow.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, do you remember getting tagged for a minute on the stuff with the New York Times posted and people that have a vegan or plant-based diet have less symptoms than people that don't whenever they're hit with COVID? Do you remember that? I think we were getting tagged in that. I know I saw your name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember getting tagged in that.
Oh,
but,
God. Okay.
I actually did have COVID like 2 weeks ago.
Same.
Oh, how was that?
It was weird. My, the only day I really had symptoms was the Monday after New Year's. So I did hang out with some people for New Year's Eve that Friday. And then on the Monday after, I got like a really bad headache and lower back pain and kind of like chills in general. But I took 2 rapid tests, like one on Monday, one on Tuesday, and they were both negative. So I didn't think that it was COVID. I just thought that I don't even know what I thought. I was like, man, maybe I'm really dehydrated because I had just traveled and like maybe I hadn't been eating as healthy because it was, New Year or like New Year's weekend, whatever. So I just kind of chalked it up to that. And then the Sunday after, so what, like 6 days? Yeah, 6 days later, I was a little congested and I was about to go see a friend's baby. So I took a test just to be safe and I was positive. But by the time I tested positive, my only symptom was like very minor congestion. So I do think that and I don't even know if it's veganism because I think if I ate like really clean protein that came from like a, reputable farm, and I don't know if it was like veganism per se that allowed me to have mild symptoms. I'm sure it's also my youth and a multitude of other things that contribute to my immunity. But I think the fact that I care so much about what I eat, like my daily food intake is like I have a celery juice every morning because I want to have a really alkaline body because an acidic body is what breeds disease. So I start my day with celery juice. I normally do lemon water. I do a green smoothie I'll do like a salad or something similar for lunch, and then for dinner I'll have like a ton of veggies and whatever I want, and I pretty much eat dessert every day, but it's like Yayé cookie dough or like a Yayé pie, which is at least like way healthier than most.
Damn it.
Yeah, and so I think I don't know if it's like veganism that like allowed me to
alkaline diet.
Yeah, I think it's just like eating real food.
Well,
and mostly
my
plants.
symptoms were like I pretty much I got exposed and pretty much had like symptoms immediately, but I think I got on the phone with the doctor. You have to like wait 5 days after exposure to like so your viral level's high enough to like test positive, and apparently you're the most contagious at the very beginning, which is interesting. But
and that's when you test negative, which is
I was
really
just
scary,
right? Like that's how this is like spreading, because people are like, I'm negative. And also with I think Omicron, or I don't know, like it seems like a cold. It's like a little congestion, sore throat, and you're like, I'm good.
Yeah, I feel lucky that I got this variant and not a previous one, because like a few months ago, a tiny handful of the people I knew had gotten COVID, and now I'd say 9 out of 10 people I know have gotten COVID.
I have not had it yet. That I know
knocking
of.
on all the wood.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of shit.
The roar.
I think everyone's gonna get it eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
I, honestly, like because of how mild mine was, I was just like, y'all just get it over with. Like, just get it out of your system. Like, you'll be fine. And I can only speak that to kind of like my, circle of friends who I believe will be able to like handle it. But you know what I mean? Like, I was just like,
I agree. I think if you're spending time with a lot of other people who are in like a safer age range and don't have any like pre-existing diseases that would make them
more at risk.
yeah, right.
Yeah, more at risk populations, then you should be safe. Like that was kind of like me. Like I was about to go see my friend's brand new baby, so I took a test to be safe.
Right.
So I think it's important to keep doing those things. But if you're hanging out with your normal friend group, I don't know. At this point, I think that like our mental health is more important.
Yeah. Well, I only brought that up because the plant-based diet is surprisingly pushed by the government whenever you get diagnosed with cancer and stuff, because cancer and viruses cannot thrive they only thrive in the acidic environments. They don't thrive in alkaline environments. And so I think that was kind of what I was reading on this study when they came out with it, is just that a lot of viruses have a harder time living in the environments where people are just eating whole plant-based and not meat, because meat is super acidic. Sodas are acidic. Dairy is acidic. There's also some fruits that are acidic as well, but it's like different. And so that's why I was bringing that up. And I was like, maybe that is why.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, like plants are nature's oldest medicine. Before we had pharmaceutical companies, people were just like mashing up a bunch of herbs and making their own at-home remedies.
Witches do.
I mean, like our supplements and medicine, there's plants in there.
Yeah. Well, dang. This has
is
been
great.
good. Yeah. Is there anything that you can think of that we didn't ask you that would be so important for people to know?
No, but I think like the goal of all of this should be longevity. Like, most
lifestyle.
people want to live longer.
Yeah.
And there's this really cool organization called Blue Zones. I think it was started by like a National Geographic fellow that studies longevity hotspots. They call them Blue Zones around the world. And there's a few different places. There's like Northern California, Okinawa, Japan.
Italy has one.
And like an island off of Italy. And all of these different populations have 9 things in common, but they've never interacted with each other. Like it's totally random. But these populations have the highest percentage of centennials. So people who live to be over 100. And one of those 9 things that all of these communities have in common is plant-based diet. Most of them eat fish and like substitute other fruits, other animal products, but like their foundational diet is based on plants. And then I think like the number one thing above that is just having a purpose.
Yeah.
And so getting up in the morning, and like these like grandmas in Japan, like they are responsible for taking care of their grandchildren every day. And they are like active, like they sit on the floor and they get up, movement. Yeah. So it's like movement, purpose, and plants.
Yeah.
That's 3 of the 9 secrets to a long, happy life.
Do you know the other ones?
There's like
one of them was actually one of them was wine at 5, which is funny because like I don't necessarily think that like wine is super healthy for you, but I think if you're only having a glass of wine a day at night, I think it has more to do with like community and connecting with others and less so about
moderation and like just balance. But I think that Netflix show that Zac Efron came out with, I forget what it's called. I think it's episode 1 or 2, and he goes and visits the blue zones.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Oh, I'd like to watch that.
Yeah, that's a great show.
That kind of gal, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, when you like, one thing I haven't mentioned that I normally like to talk about, but like I think it's 94%. It's over 90% of healthcare costs in America are attributed to preventable diseases. And I think Blue Zones is the one who provides the statistic, but like those preventable diseases are 80% caused by people's poor lifestyles and diets. And so like when it comes to living a long, healthy life or preventing disease, we often think that it's like very hereditary or in our DNA. But your DNA is responsible for less than 10% of all that.
Wow.
Oh, that's
like 80% is lifestyle and environment, including what we eat.
Like insurance companies love that people eat meat, right?
I mean, yeah, our healthcare industry is a sick care industry. They're not really targeting the root cause of these issues. They're just managing the symptoms.
Wow.
Because keeping people sick is very profitable.
Yeah.
It's sad. It literally makes me want to cry when I think about our healthcare industry. And there's obviously so many incredible doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals in our world that like, I don't know, like we wouldn't function without them. Like we're doing some really cool stuff with like my friend was telling me the other day that like you can literally like extract your own blood and like spin it up. This is like not scientific at all. I mean, it's very scientific. I'm not explaining it scientifically, but you can like inject yourself with your own blood and like alter that. Like there's so many cool things.
Spinning around and getting oxalate or something.
Yeah, you like oxidate the blood and then re-inject it, and it helps you like regenerate your cells.
With Lyme disease do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You gotta have.
Yeah. Jimbo
tomorrow. Oh, you're having Jimbo tomorrow. His story's so cool. I can't wait for that episode to come out. Yeah. I don't want to give it away, but like his journey with Lyme disease is incredible. But that's just all to say that like our healthcare industries are doing so many cool things. Mm-hmm. But like, why is only 6% of all the funding going toward all of that? Like, why are we spending 94% of our healthcare dollars on preventable diseases like heart disease, which is literally responsible for 1 in 4 deaths in America? And heart disease is not only reversible, it's not only preventable through a plant-based diet, it's reversible.
Damn.
Oh my God.
Take care of your heart, y'all.
Yep. Yeah. It's heart disease,
physically,
diabetes, and cancer are like our top 3 killers in the U.S. And they can all be largely prevented and kind of not maintained. But
I'm just very glad I don't have to worry about those things. I think a lot of people take for granted feeling good. Mm-hmm. Anytime I even have a sniffle, I'm like, oh, this is too inconvenient for me. I can't. So yeah. Well, dang. Thank you for educating us on this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot on that car ride going up to Aspen.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it was then that I was like, yep, we have to have Krissy on because we talked about so much and I was just like, whoa. Like I had no idea or thought about food in that way. And so I was just like, we had to have you on and thank you for doing this because this was good. But before we go, we have 3 questions that we want to ask you that have nothing to do with the interview at all. So
you go first.
Okay. If you could be a gold medalist at any Olympic sport, summer or winter, which one would it be?
Ooh, I'd probably have to say gymnastics.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's a popular one.
It's fun.
Who wouldn't want
so
to
fun
twist
to watch.
their body? Yeah, I did gymnastics when I was a little kid. Like for a couple years, I was never good at anything. It's just fascinating.
Mine synchronized swimming every time. I'm just like, I mean, I feel like that'd be so cool to know. I don't know.
It'd be really cool. Yeah. But definitely Summer Olympics. I don't want to be outside.
Oh, fuck no.
No.
What is your favorite way to cook or eat a potato?
French fries.
Same. I mean, I was like, I knew you
I
were gonna say
love
that.
French fries, and I'm a big fan of Primal Kitchen ketchup because there's no added sugar. So like olive oil French fries that I like bake at home or air fry at home with.
Oh, I just bought an
with,
air, or
like,
just
a
got an
clean
air
ketchup.
fryer.
Ooh, it's gonna change your life.
Okay, last question. Would you rather smoke weed on the beach or trip psychedelics in the desert?
I think weed on the beach. I just love the beach.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Well, dang. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Lacey?
love you ladies. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was great. And we're going to watch Lacey try to wrap this up because this is hilarious.
Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the episode. This is obviously like a lifestyle that Stephanie and I partake in and are something that we're pretty passionate about and has changed our lives tremendously. So yeah, it was great that we get to share this piece of us with y'all. But if you want to keep up with us on Instagram and other social media sites, it's at Oh Here We Go, and then at Stephanie Parsley, at the Lacey Claire. We will leave all of Krissy's information and Yayé's information down below, as well as ours. If you want to stay connected. Yeah,
Yes.
you guys should, especially like if you're a Colorado local, like the shit is so good.
Yes. And yeah, Krissy, other than Yayé, where else can we find you?
Our products.
Yeah, or like just, well, yeah, actually, that'd be great. Yeah, where can we find Yayé products around Denver?
We're working on some really fun new pickup locations and retail partnerships. I can't share all of that, but you can find our salads at Whole Soul Blend Bars.
Oh, yeah,
They
I
are
love
also
Whole
a
Soul.
pickup center for Yayé. So
Love
we're
them.
working on expanding a lot of those partnerships, but for now, you mostly have to go to yayeorganics.com to get our goods delivered to your door.
Sweet.
Do it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening and making it to the end. And
On that note, we will see you in the next episode.
bye.